I think we are live. Our test streams went really well until like 10 seconds before we were going to go live, and then the internet crapped out, but hopefully everything stays good. There is the wild card, 3 kids are home,
School vacation.
chances something's going to go terribly wrong, but, hey guys, keep your fingers crossed. It is what it is. We're going to do some painting and we're going to have fun, I can guarantee. They are our sponsors. We're going to be using the Turner Watercolors, but of course, as always, use whatever you have, and we'll also be using Mimic brushes. You can find a list of supplies in the video description, and we're going to get going. So this is what we're going to paint. It's super easy, and you'll notice the horses don't have a lot of definition, so you shouldn't have any trouble with that. We're going to just simply sketch on a horizon line, and we're just going to kind of make a slopey hill at about the bottom quarter to third of your page. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need. All right, I'm making mine a little bit darker just so you can see it. And we're going to begin by wetting the sky with a nice big brush. I'm going to use a big round, but a big flat will work just as well. So where's everybody from today? Is anybody saying anything in the chat?
Yeah, well, let's see. Candace Tobacco is in South Jersey. Sherry French from Alabama. See, we had other people talking earlier.
I think I saw someone from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, there were some people from Pennsylvania. We got Beverly Mossman, Cindy Matthews, Gracie Shack, Ian Jackson. We got a bunch of the regulars in today.
Wonderful. I'm grabbing a little turquoise.
Barb Owen on howtogetcreative.com.
Oh, wonderful.
Howtogetcreative.com. It must have been that seltzer water I had before I came over.
Was it just seltzer water?
It was. Maybe that was the problem.
And I'll be live on Barb's channel. If you click on her name where she's chatting, it'll take you over to her live channel. I believe I'll be on her channel at 2. So it's going to be a Lindsay-filled afternoon if you want it to be.
All right.
I just put some turquoise blue and some phthalo blue here on my palette, and I'm going to start kind of negative painting the areas around. Sorry about that. I don't know why we're having that stream issue.
No, my phone's off. I don't know. The girls are outside.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're back.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Okay, I think we're back.
I'm taking a little bit of burnt sienna and adding it into my blues that I've been using, and it's a little green, so I'm actually going to grab a little bit of magenta to gray it down, because pink and green are opposites. That's going to just kind of gray it a little bit. And if anything, it'll give it a little bit of a purple tint, which is fine. And I'm going to go put in some of the darker areas. A little bit more magenta there, because it still wants to go a little green on me. And you will hear kids. They're out playing in the backyard, and I've got the door open so I can keep an eye on them. So I'll have to bear with that, but I don't know. It's nice to hear kids not fighting, playing in the sunshine. I don't have a problem with that. Hopefully nobody else does.
And the jingle jangle of Chewy.
Yeah. Kids are getting fun, and I'm tapping it off on my palette first so that I don't get too much. And I'm blotting my brush, because this Mimic brush, it's synthetic, but it's meant to impersonate a fur brush, so it holds tons of water. So I want to make sure that I don't get too much on there. So by tapping it on my palette, it just makes sure that I don't get any big gobs in there. I'm just going to throw in some yellow ochre. And yellow ochre is a little bit less likely to green up something than like a lemon yellow or even a cadmium yellow, because it's less of a pure color. Fill in some of those areas there. If you find that you've lost too much of your sky, of your clouds, you can blot some out. So if I wanted to do that, I'd just take a dry paper towel. And you can also add texture into your clouds that way. Got some new badminton rackets, so.
Well, I saw Maisie had a couple in her hand, and I wondered. I hadn't seen the rackets before.
Yeah, the last set we had actually lasted pretty well, and the net is still going strong. I haven't put it up yet this year, but yeah, the rackets. The kids sometimes get them out when they have friends over in the snow, and then that's that.
And that's where they stay until it melts.
Yeah, and this, you can't. They'll like grate snow on it and stuff, pretend they're making snow cones or something, and then the rackets are never the same. after that. I'm going to also grab a little bit of magenta on its own, very, very small amount, and add some of that into portions of the sky where I feel like I want a little bit more life.
Sunflower Bermuda. Hi, Lindsay and all from Bermuda. Nothing to do with art, but where does your water pump water to? We here in Bermuda have water tanks and catch rain on the roof, and it's pumped to the house.
Oh, interesting. Well, our water's collected underground, so the water pump pumps water from the well, because we're out in the country, so we have a well, and it pumps it up to like to the water tank and to the faucets and everything. So, but we're upstairs today, so we shouldn't have any water pump sounds. And I can go through with a brush that I've cleaned and dried off and pull off any extra color that I don't want. So that's another way you can kind of control your sky. I'm going to do a little bit more shadow and kind of darken up some of these clouds a little bit more. And if you go on and you're painting with wet paint on damp paper, and it kind of happens as we build our sky, you'll end up with some blooms, but that actually will look like clouds when we're done, so don't worry about that. It'll give us a desired effect.
Ian Jackson, who did Lindsay say she was going on later?
How to get creative with Barb Owens. She was in the chat. I don't know if she still is, but if she is and you click her name, you can get to her channel. I also put a link on my blog this morning so that you can go right to her live channel where you can watch the live broadcast, and I'll be crafting with her. I've got a vague idea of what I'm doing, and I know what supplies I'm going to use. I'm going to use my new distress crayons and maybe some liquid metals, the Ken Oliver liquid metals, and I'm just going to go fill a box full of stuff, bring it back up, and pretty much hop over to her channel right after the stream's done, so at 2 p.m. So it's going to be quite a go day. Then I'm going down to the school and I'm painting faces for the Little League kids.
Oh, I didn't know you were doing that well. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, they're having their big cookout, like end of season celebration.
Oh, nice.
Yes, they asked me to do face painting again this year. I got to compete with a balloon animal guy. He always gets all my customers.
Dang. Marette Hansen, watching a video where you make a bottle cap palette. Did the bottle caps get rusty?
They didn't, but my daughter actually took that palette and ended up using it, so I pretty much lost it as soon as I made it.
Candace Tobacco, I am a huge stamper. Would you consider doing a live feed of a watercolor stamp video?
The reason why I haven't done any stamping videos live, and maybe it'd be all right now, is just because, like, I'm working on a 9x12 paper here. When I'm working on something stamped, like card size, it's so much smaller, and I just worry I can't get a crisp enough detail on something small like that with a live stream, just because it's not going to be the resolution of like a typical video, so that's kind of why I've hesitated to do anything that was really small. But I'll definitely use those techniques in more stamping videos. I just want to make sure that if I'm doing it, that you guys can see it well, and I'd be afraid that I might not be able to get a crisp enough image with something so tiny on a live stream. And this webcam is not as, nice as the one I typically film with.
Barb Owen, I'm really looking forward to our creative chat.
Me too. And I think she takes questions from viewers too. So if you had something that was, I don't know, not appropriate to ask here because it's not about painting or whatever, or something I don't know, you want to ask elsewhere, then go ahead. I have no idea what she's going to ask me. I told her I don't have anything off limits. I mean, I said, well, I don't want to talk about politics or religion, but
yeah, that can turn into a quagmire pretty quickly.
Yeah, I just saw something. It was like a meme, and it said, "How to start a fight on Facebook: express your opinion and wait."
Yes, that's an excellent. Yes, from what I remember of Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, so.
Yeah, I forget that. I forget you're not on Facebook.
I'm not. I'm very, very unhip. Danielle Grader, I got the Mimic brushes when they were on sale a few weeks ago, and I am in love with them.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I like them both. It's funny because I think probably the Kolinsky ones are the more desirable ones for most people, but I really like the squirrels because they're so juicy. They hold so much water. Squirrel.
Squirrel. Squirrel. Squirrel.
All right, and I think I'm going to leave that sky be for now, blotting off a few lighter areas, because we can go back in and glaze over some more shadows. after it dries. I'm going to come down here to the Pasture area, and I'm going to wet that. You can leave just like a little bit of a gap so that you don't have, well, you know what, it doesn't matter if your pasture area smooths into the sky at all because we're going to have a row of trees there. So you don't even need to leave a gap. This is kind of fun because it's over. If you painted in acrylics, this would be a good way to do a first watercolor painting because it's very similar. We don't have to like save any whites of the paper. We're building back to front, which is like how you build in acrylics and oils if you're painting alla prima. So I think you'd find this to be very complementary to an acrylic technique. And if you want to do this in acrylics, you totally can. Obviously, you'd be using thicker paint. I'm going to grab a little sap green. And all my colors are listed in the video description too if you fall behind or you're painting later and you don't remember exactly what I did. We will be dulling this green down, but I'm just getting some color in here for to begin with.
Nerdy Stitcher, do you ever use salt on your watercolor paintings?
Sometimes if I'm looking for that particular texture, like if I'm painting lilacs or snow and I want like a snowy sky. If you have a hard time getting your paint dark enough when you're using the Mimic brushes, switch to a synthetic one. You probably just got too much water in, and it can be tricky if you're a beginner painter to control how much water that you really need.
Amog Vartek, what precautions should I take when working with 130 GSM paper for watercolors?
Gosh, 130 GSM, that's pretty light. I would stretch it. So just wet the paper and place it down on a wooden board. It can be a cutting board. It could be a piece of plywood. Doesn't really matter. Get some gummed paper tape, which is it's a brown tape that's a brown tape that has a sticky adhesive, a dry adhesive on one side, but when you wet it, it becomes sticky. Use that to tape it down to the board and let it dry. That way it'll remain really tight while you paint on it. And otherwise it's going to wrinkle really crazy. You could try taping it with masking tape, but it will wrinkle on you. Now I'm going to work on the tree line here, and I'm not going to worry about the sky being a little damp. What it's going to do, if the sky's a little damp, is it's going to make that row of trees a little fuzzy as we go back into the distance, and that's fine because you want things to be kind of blurry as they go further out. So I'm going to tap on some yellow ochre for some lighter trees. And I'm still using this humongous number 30 round. So, you know, I like to start with a big brush because I can cover a lot of ground, I'll paint quicker, I'll fuss less, and I get a more natural look. And then when I get going on with detail and stuff, I will be much more relaxed and ready to handle a smaller brush. And the paintings look a lot more natural and looser.
Adrian926, how often do you use my lord. How often do you use watercolor and colored pencils together?
Boy, I do that a lot if I'm kind of make a mistake in my watercolor paintings. I like the technique, but it's honestly kind of one of those things I just about only do when I've made a mistake or I feel like I'm just not achieving what I want to with the watercolor. I would say probably a couple times a month. But I mean it's a fun technique. There's nothing wrong with doing it. But that tends to be what kind of pulls me into using them. I've kind of my watercolors aren't doing what I want. I want more detail, or I need to bring back some lighter values, or I need some opacity, and that's when I get into the color pencils.
Sarah Daywood. Lindsay, would you recommend the Yarka watercolors or the Winsor & Newton watercolors? I am in love with the Yarka, but I would love to see how the Winsor & Newton are too.
I would just try a few pans of the Winsor & Newton if you already have Yarka and see what you think. The Winsor & Newton's going to be more expensive. And I think if you like to paint dry, the Winsor & Newton pans are going to serve you better than Winsor & Newton tubes. Winsor & Newton will tell you not to squirt your Winsor & Newton tube paint into the palette and let them dry. I mean, I've done that. I had to have some Crimson Lake the other day, so I squirted a little bit in there. It re-wets fine, but I do think their pans work a little bit better if you want to have them dry like that, because I do have a small set of their pans that came free with a paper order once. So, you know, I think that the Yarka pans, they work so well dry, and they're quite a bit cheaper. Completely up to you, though. I mean, they're both good brands of paint. But I think if you like to paint dry like I am, then get the pans. Just order a few half pans. Stick them right in your Yarka palette. If you have the regular one with a big gap down the middle, you could put quite a few little half pans or even full pans in there and work. For some shadows, I'm going to do the Phthalo blue that I've been using. And I'm going to grab some sap green and a little, well, let's see how that looks. I think I'll go with a little magenta so I can really darken that up. And keep it transparent because I don't want it, the burnt sienna would make it a little bit more muddy, so the magenta will make almost a black there. So super, super dark. And I think I'm going to actually switch to a smaller brush so I don't just add a bunch of water in there. And this is just going to go kind of in the, in some of the shadow areas. Not painting any individual trees, we're just getting a mass of trees done.
Ian Jackson, when dabbing water out of the painting, which do you feel works best? Paper towel or cotter bud? I mean, cotter buds? He must mean cotton balls.
Oh, I've never used cotton balls. I like a paper towel. Personally, even over a Q-tip. A Q-tip is good if you want just a tiny little spot, but I find a paper towel just really absorbs the water really well. At least our American ones do anyway. I know Ian's British, I think.
He is. He's from the UK.
Oops, I almost stuck my brush in my coffee. It's a 2-pot day, too. That's my second pot.
Whoa.
But it's just a small, I have a tiny little coffee pot.
That's true. It is only
it's not very big. Yeah. All right, I'm going to dry this here. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and lay them on me. Somebody asked me about this embossing gun here. It's a heated tool by Ranger, and it doesn't get as hot as the Marvy heat tool, but it's a lot quieter, and it does an adequate job at melting my embossing powder too, and I haven't scorched paper with it, which is nice. So I always like the Marvy because it's so hot, but I never get scorched paper with this. But you could use a regular hairdryer for drying your watercolor if you want. But I would say probably the best bet is actually, if your painting's at the stage, to walk away, have a cup of tea, go for a little walk, just rest your eyes for a few minutes, and then come back, because your painting will probably be better for it. I've already painted this one, so I kind of know what I'm getting into, so I'm just drying it to speed up the process for you guys. Have any questions?
Yeah, Tiana Gordon. I'm a beginner in acrylic. What brand do you recommend and brushes?
Well, I am not a huge acrylic painter, but I do like Liquitex is my favorite. I have not used all the acrylic brands because I don't use acrylics that often.
And Rich Bowden is on today too.
Oh, hi,
so
Rich.
He might have some ideas.
Yeah, I also really like I like the Galleria brushes from Winsor & Newton, and I also like the Simply Simmons. They're very affordable. And I like the Aquilons from Royal and Langnickel. They are suitable for acrylics and watercolor.
I have some of those, and I enjoy them for watercolor.
Yep.
I will say that I find that they're a little juicier than some other ones that I've used before, which is fine, because I've been playing with my watercolor pencils. And I do notice I have to watch out, because sometimes the brush will get kind of juicy.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not a bad thing.
Yep.
You just have to kind of know that that's what I found.
Oh, yeah, and the Royal Langnickel Fusion, their gold-handled brush, they're stiffer. They'll work a little bit better. I think I'm going to go in with my pencil and sketch on a few horses. I'm going to put this one just to the right of center here. I'm just going to start by doing a little bit of an oval. I hope you guys... I'll just draw it darker than I advise you doing it, just so you can see. So I've got an oval there because the horse is facing us. And then I'm going to put an oval over here for its head. And then I'm just going to connect it for the neck. Because we've got foreshortening happening. We're just kind of seeing this body as an oval. A little mark out for the ear. Yeah, and just get a couple legs on here. This other one's kind of hidden by the head, and we can see the back leg a little bit there. Just a little mark to show its front shoulder. And then we'll put another horse over here, And you can look at the reference photo if you're confused as to where your horses should be. Just impressions of horses, really. We're not getting too crazy with this. I've got another kind of long ways oval there. This another oval for the head, the horse is eating. Squaring off the bottom of the oval. And then we're going to put some legs. It's like little stick horses, really. Doing little stick horses.
Matchstick horses. Nerdy Stitcher, what's your absolutely favorite watercolor type, brand, and why?
I really like the M grams because they work really well being left in a palette to dry for a long time. These work really well too. These are the Turners. They're cheaper than the M grams, but the M grams, I've just been using them for so long. They're my favorite. I'm going to do 3 horses up here. They're going to be closer to the horizon. They're going to be smaller, so I'm going to do 3 little ovals. 1, 2, and 3. If it's closer to the bottom, make it a little bit bigger. And they're all eating, so we're going to have the head ovals just down to the ground. This one could be out a little bit more so they don't all look the same. We're not really seeing detail on these. They're too far away. The grass is long. And the grass will go up over their legs, so I'm just going to get some little stubs for legs there.
Tika Carr, I miss seeing Lindsay's soft pastel tutorials. Will there be any in the near future?
There will be some. I've just been super busy, and I just got back from the stamp show, so I want to play with my stamps. So they've just taken the back seat a little bit. But yeah, I do intend on doing some. I'm throwing in some trunks here just so you can see where I'm going to put them. If you want to sketch them in, go right ahead. I think I might only put 2 trees in this one. I had 3 in the other, but I'm not sure I really liked that. So we'll hold off on that tree. All right, so now we know where our horses are and our trees are. We can do some shadows on the ground. And I'm going to take the colors I was using for the ground. I'm going to take some sap green, some yellow ochre. I don't want too much yellow ochre, just a little bit to kind of make it match a little bit. And some burnt sienna and just a little touch of the phthalo blue. And I'm going to add that kind of under my trees and a little bit under my horses. Not those ones back there because the grasses are going to be up higher than them. And then I'm going to clean my brush, blot it so it's damp, and then just spread out my shadows. So I get a more natural effect. Pretty easy. And you can drop in a little bit more color if you diluted your shadows a little too much. And then we can put the tops on some of these trees. And for that, I think I'm going to do phthalo blue, some sap green. Let's see what that looks like. We can do a few dabs with that. Just don't pounce your brush hard onto the paper because you don't want to damage the tip. You're just kind of touching it to the paper and letting some of that pigment come off.
Candace Tobacco, I'm new to watercolors. What are some good tips for a greenhorn?
Use water. A lot of people try to paint too dry. Let the paint go where it wants. Practice. Get some paper that you don't care about practicing on, that's not too precious to use. Get good quality brushes and good quality paper, for your final pieces, because that's usually where people have trouble. It's trying to use paper that's disintegrating on them. Practice, 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 and play, and don't be really focused on the end result. Just enjoy the process. I'm just using different amounts of the colors to make some different shadows. Magenta and phthalo will make a really great purple that will add some nice shadows in there too. In fact, I think I'll mix up a little bit of that on the side. All sorts of nice tree colors in here. Some some burnt sienna and a little bit of that purpley color that I just mixed, so I get a nice dark, and I'm going to put the trunk in. And I think I'm actually going to touch a wet brush to the bottom of the trunk and let that color go into the shadow a little bit. Just spread it all out a little bit. Maybe I'll add a little bit of that purpley color in the shadow. I feel like it needs a little something. My trees are looking a little too identical, so I have to do something to make them a little different because they're just a little too matchy-matchy. I'm going to bring this one down a little bit. Add a little yellow in the treetops. Okay, we should be back. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for letting us know. If that happens again, let me know. I think I'm going to have my husband look at the router and maybe replace it. It's not old. It's pretty new, but we've been having some issues the last couple of weeks, so.
And, you know, out of a batch of 100, there's at least 2 or 3 that aren't, you know, always great.
Yeah. So I added a little magenta into this tree, made it a little bit taller so it wouldn't be matchy-matchy with the other one. And then I think I'm going to actually go in and paint the horses, because once I have those focal objects in, I'll be able to tell how dark I want everything to be. Now, in the reference photo, one of the horses is white, but... oh, is there trouble with
No,
Robbie?
something in Chewy's ear from being outside, and I don't want to know what it is right now.
Oh. There shouldn't be a tick with all those chickens out there.
No, it's not. It's some kind of dirt or leaf or who knows.
Yep. I'm going to take some brown. That's pretty dark. And I have some of that blue in there, and I'm just kind of mixing colors till I get the right shade of brown. You got to make sure you don't have too much water here, because you do want to have a lot of control. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Grab a little bit more burnt sienna. So I'm using the same brown. When I say brown, I mean burnt sienna. It's the same color I've been using. We'll give that a try and see how dark that is. And I'm just going to fill in the shapes that I roughly sketched on. And if you don't want horses, they could be deer.
Or moose.
Or moose, yeah.
Or geese. Seen it. I'm like, yay, Bob Ross.
If you want deer, deer are skinnier than horses. So don't make them so rugged. And they've got a little pointy tail on the end.
They have delicate legs.
Delicate, yeah.
Stupid deer.
What?
Yeah. Only because they come traipsing through my yard on their path to the house that feeds them down the road.
Oh.
Actually,
They get the dog all upset?
No, it's just, you know, I don't know, they walk through my yard and they're covered in ticks and drop their ticks in my yard and trail through and leave their poop everywhere, which Chewy eats.
God.
And they cross the road, so there's always cars, you know, slamming on their brakes. And they don't care. They'll just stand in the middle of the road because they're town deer.
They're just trying to make a living.
Well,
they've used up all their property.
Make a living by my friend coming over and using his bow and arrow and putting them in a delicious stew.
Sarah.
I eat meat, and I'm not ashamed.
Bambi. You killed Bambi.
I'm not, hey, Bambi's a cartoon.
That's true. That's
you
true.
know
No, you know, honestly.
We've got plenty of deer here in the great state of Maine. A few extra going into my stew is not...
Yeah, and you know, honestly, is compared to factory farming, I would much rather see people eating game than, if you're going to eat it, you know, then...
Right.
All right, so now I'm going to actually use a brush that's a little bit less typical for watercolor, and it's a hog fan brush. Speaking of animal byproducts, this is an animal product. So you can call me hypocrite. But my family eats meat, so I figured, well, at least the whole animal is getting used. And they do last forever, so you don't have to buy them a zillion times. Actually, your watercolor brushes should last you a long time anyway, because they are so, you use them so gently, and watercolor paint is so benign that they shouldn't hurt your brushes. Acrylic brushes you'll end up replacing more often. Oil brushes, the same thing. Acrylics are probably the roughest on your brushes. So I'm just
I
kind
would
of...
have thought oils would have been.
No, acrylics, because you can actually dissolve oil paint. But
yeah,
you
I guess
can't
that
really
makes
dissolve
sense.
acrylic. You can dissolve it a bit with alcohol, but it really, once your brush has been toasted by acrylics, it's just not going to be the same. So this is very much like doing an acrylic because we're able to build up a lot here. I'm adding a little gold back there just to highlight the hill. And then I'm going to do a little bit more green. And I tap I'll show you that here. Well, I think you can see that. I tapped my brush onto my palette to kind of separate those bristles. So I can draw longer ones up right off the edge of the bottom of my painting. To give it more perspective, so you have like things closer to you that are larger and things further away that are smaller. Okay, so now I think I want to look at the sky and maybe darken up some of the clouds, and I think some of these trees back here need some more shadows in them. And oh, it's totally fine just to borrow your fan brush from your acrylics and then use it back for acrylics again. You do not need a dedicated fan brush for watercolor. You could totally borrow it. I would recommend that you don't use like your nice watercolor brushes for acrylics because they're really hard. These brushes aren't really stiff enough to push the acrylics around, and they can damage your brush. But to borrow an acrylic brush for watercolor once in a while isn't going to hurt a thing. Your watercolors aren't going to do anything to your acrylic brushes that is any worse than what your acrylics do. Anyway. Gosh, I feel like I'm shaming acrylic paints and I'm shaming meat eaters. Gosh, I just feel...
I'm not
very
shamed.
judgy.
I'm going to have some delicious steaks on the grill tonight and enjoy every bite.
I was like, I probably came across very judgy there. I didn't mean to come across judgy.
It's all right. It happens. It's okay. I made fun of Canadians a few weeks ago, remember?
Oh, that's right.
I was apologetic after. I didn't mean to...
I don't think anybody took it.
No, I don't really think.
They're awfully nice. Canadians are awfully nice. I wouldn't say so if they did, probably either.
Well, and the, Frugal Crafter crew does have a sense of humor, which is good. You can make a
they
joke.
need it.
Let's see. Cyan Ink Art. How do you keep animal hair away from watercolor paintings? I have a miniature lop and his hair gets everywhere. I live in a small house, so I don't have an art studio.
I would think the biggest thing would be to keep the hair out of your palette. Once your watercolor painting's dry, you should be able to brush it off. You may end up with a little bit of a line here and there if it dries, if like the hair gets in a wet wash and it dries. Something you could do is when you're done painting, maybe take a big Tupperware or a box and just turn it like upside down over the painting until it dries. It should still let enough air circulate so that it dries on you. But that would keep the hair out while it's drying anyway. I'm just painting some shadows around that tree so I don't lose the definition there. And now I'm going to go look at the sky because I feel like I want some more shadows in the sky. And I'll just show you here. What are you giggling about over there?
Iron Wraithful. Maybe Sarah will get a visit from the Maine game wardens. Laugh out loud. # Northwoods Law.
Is that show still on?
I think it's either in its last season or it had its last season.
Yeah. So here, this is the finished sky on my other painting, and this is where we're at now. If you don't want this extra dark in there, you don't have to do it, but I feel like it needs something else, so I am going to glaze on some more shadows, and glazing just basically means that you're doing a transparent layer over what you already have, and it can muddy it a bit, just to let you know, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I hope one of the little people in the house go grab the phone.
There's 3 of them, I would hope so.
I hope it's not a call for me.
Paul, is there a big difference between watercolor brushes and acrylic paint brushes? I use my brushes for both.
If it's working out fine for you, it's not going to hurt anything. Acrylic brushes usually have a stiffer filament for pushing around the thicker paint. So I'm putting in the shadow on a cloud, and then I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm spreading out the top of the shadow. Okay, usually have a little bit more definition on the bottom of the cloud and less on the top. And if that's still a little too bold, you can just kind of go over the edge a little bit and soften that.
Beverly Mossman. Lindsay, when did you start to not eat meat?
I first started when I was about in sixth grade, but I couldn't really stick to it until I gave up dairy products too, and that was when I was
Jeez.
in high school. So it's been about 22 years ago. I gave up everything, and that was much easier for some reason.
Well, yeah, I could see where it would be though, because cheese.
I think it makes
And
you crave.
eggs are a big one. Cheese and eggs. Those would be my two hardest things to give up.
I think it also makes you crave other stuff. Like I think dairy makes you crave sugar and makes you crave meat, and I just think certain things maybe, or maybe it's just the habit. Maybe if you break that habit, it's a lot.
Well, and the protein in cheese is probably a lot more similar to the protein you get in meat, whereas the plant-based protein's different than the meat protein. So that might have something to do with it too.
Yeah, it could be.
And it's just throwing theories out. I'm
I
sure.
don't know. Probably most of it, anything
Sure, I
like
have no
that.
idea what the heck is I'm talking about, but I'll still talk.
I think a lot of it too is psychological. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, I'm always one of those people that can go to extremes a lot easier than doing something moderate.
Right.
I have an easier time with extreme things.
Miss Thrifty 50. I sometimes hear you talk about granulation. What is that? Paintings looking great, by the way.
Thank you. Granulation is as your paints dry, the pigment particles separate, and you can see the definite different particles in your resting on top of your paper. So when I do if I did a stormy sky and I mixed ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, those are very granulating colors because they have bigger pigment particles. So instead of sinking into the paper and staining it like a magenta or a phthalo blue would, they actually sit on top. So as they dry and the water the water evaporates, you have like all these little clusters of pigment particles kind of just sitting there, and it has a granular appearance. So that's what granulation is. Earth tones, iron-based colors tend to granulate more. I think we're going to finish early today. It's
Ooh. Well, you have been trucking right along.
That's true. Hopefully it went out to the people, most of it. Hopefully we weren't off line too much.
I don't think so.
I think I'll add just a little bit of more yellow here and there, yellow ochre into the sky, just to warm up some areas. I feel like I have it a little too much in one spot. So I like when I'm doing sky and I'm adding details, I'll apply the color, clean my brush off, and then go in with a clean wet brush to spread it. So I'm kind of doing it in two steps. It just helps control, you not having too much in there, and helps keep it subtle, because as you add more to the sky, you run the risk of getting it muddy. And maybe just a little bit over here. There, let's see. I think maybe I'll do a little bit more deepening at the horizon line with, I'll do burnt sienna and sap green and add a little blue to darken it. And I'm going to turn my painting actually. And I'm going to paint it and then I'll spread it around.
Karen Kowalczyk. What do you recommend to help with learning dimension and depth?
I would probably say drawing. Practice drawing and drawing what you see, and then practice shading with your drawing pencils, because a lot of times people get confused with the dimension and the depth because they're not getting their values right. They're not painting their shadows dark enough, or they're not letting their highlights be light enough, and it can be confusing when you're looking at colors, because a color might look darker but really its value is too light for an area, but you don't really see that unless you're used to drawing with black and white first. So that's usually why people start drawing, or kids always start in drawing lessons before painting lessons, so they can learn the basics before they go on to color. All right, so if you want any details in the horse, you can also go in with that dark, and you can, your horse or your deer, add a little bit of shadow here and there. Like it could be on the legs, Could be on the underside of the belly or neck. Don't go crazy because we don't have a lot of details in here, so we don't want to we don't want it to stick out and look like we need to do more. We want it just to have a little bit of a natural look to it. And maybe I'll enhance the shadows under the tree, and that's pretty much it. So if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and ask Sarah.
Yeah, Micah Paul, do you ever use tube watercolor? If so, why? I use the palettes.
Almost all my watercolor is tube, but I squirt it out into my palette and let it dry because I prefer the control that I get. And also I like knowing that I don't have to stop and squeeze out paint. I'm ready to paint as soon as I open my palette.
Rich Bowden, have you tried brushes made of Prolin surgical stitches fiber? As I got a sword lately and love it.
No, I don't think so. That sounds new to me. So
that sounds interesting.
Do you know what brand makes that fiber? Because I don't recognize any. I
wonder, is it new? I wonder, did they just start?
I don't know. Usually, like our synthetics are Taclon, nylon or Taclon, golden Taclon.
Well, I would imagine the stitches are probably similar to like the Taclon or like because. Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I've never actually had stitches.
Because they don't ever. I mean, some stitches dissolve, but not all stitches do. Like when I had my cyst removed, I had to go get the stitches taken out, and they were like a wire, not plastic, but they were sturdy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Pro Art makes it.
Huh. No, I haven't used them. I'll have to keep an eye out for them.
Oh. Yeah.
But you like them? Are they? I wonder if they're absorbent or.
Give us more information, Rich.
Yeah.
It's finer than Taclon and looks like blonde hair.
Huh. Well, it sounds like it might even, mimic a Kolinsky or something if it's softer and absorbent. All right. I don't think I like that color I just put in there, so I'm going to blot it off. And I think I am happy with this. If you want to do any other little details, you can always put some little loose branches in the trees with your brown blue mix. Just kind of throw a little bit of lost and found branches, but really that's it. Sign your name and you are all set to go. I want to thank you guys so much for painting with me today. Please check out our sponsor, jerrysartorama.com. You can find all the supplies we used. And if you have some free time at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which is in about 40 minutes, I'll hop on over to Barb Owens, howtobecreative.com's YouTube channel. And you can hang out with me some more for another hour. That'll be from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, happy crafting.